Welcome to Tucker Carlson today. So the role of the media in our society is both more straightforward and more complex than anyone admits. It's more straightforward in the sense the media's job is very simple. Figure out what's going on, cover the news, and bring it to your readers or viewers. That's the straightforward part. That's the part they don't do. It's more complex in the following sense. Your whole understanding of reality, all of our understandings of reality, comes through the media. You have no way of knowing what's happening in the world except through the media. And so it really matters how your media institutions behave. It matters that they're honest, that they cover the real news, things that are actually happening, that they don't filter it before it gets to you in order to control what you think. One of the most important media organizations in the United States right now is not, strictly speaking, a media organization. But it does what they're supposed to do. It does what the New York Times, the Washington Post claim to do, but don't. It finds out what's going on, and it brings it to you. And it's a Twitter account. It's called Libs of TikTok. And if you've never heard of it, you've almost certainly seen what Libs of TikTok has gathered, the news they have found and brought to you. Here's a 58-second sample of the kind of information we would not have were it not for Libs of TikTok.
Hi, my name's Alice and I'm a preschool teacher. Recently we started wearing pronoun pins and the kids get to pick a new pronoun pin every day. We have some that pick like she, her every single day, and we have some that change it up.
So I'm a non-binary preschool teacher, and my kids know I'm non-binary. They know I'm not a girl or a boy. I use they, them pronouns in the classroom. We work on it. Not all the kids get it. That's okay. And I go by Mix Gray in the classroom, not Miss or Mr.
Man, y'all thought me teaching the children about me being poly was crazy. But not only that, but they also know that I'm gender fluid.
I'm going to give you my explanation about what it means to be transgender as well. So when babies are born, the doctor looks at them and they make a guess about whether the baby is a boy or a girl.
Kids as young as 3 and 4 are actually aware of their gender identity, even if they don't have the language for it. To say that pre-K through 3rd grade are not ready for such topics is actually internalized homophobia and transphobia.
So those are all teachers. Kindergarten, preschool, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade teachers. They could be teaching your kids. That's what they're telling your kids in school. Whether you're for it or against it, that's real. But you wouldn't know that. You would have no idea that was happening unless Libs of TikTok pulled those videos off publicly available social media, mostly TikTok. You should know that, but the New York Times is not going to tell you. They're going to hide that from you. The Washington Post, same thing. NBC News, same thing. That's information that you should definitely have, but have never had until Libs of TikTok bothered to put it in one place and show you. And for doing that, the person who runs Libs of TikTok has been the focus of a lot of hate and many threats. So many that that person has remained anonymous until today. Today, right now, the person who runs Libs of TikTok will reveal who she is. Her name is Chaya Raichik, and she joins us on set. Hi, thank you so much for coming on. I should say, just in the interest of always being as honest as we can be, we've had dinner. We've known each other since this summer. You've come on our show several times behind a screen. And so we're grateful because I sincerely believe, and I think our viewers agree, you performed an invaluable public service in covering the news that media organizations haven't.
Thank you.
So I've got a lot of questions for you, but let me just start with the obvious one. You're revealing your identity right now. Why are you doing that, and why haven't you before?
So the reality is that I think most Twitter accounts are anonymous to start with, unless you're a public official or a figure.
Unless you have the verification there.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah,
Elon changed that. But until Elon changed that, most Twitter accounts start off anonymous, as did mine. And then when my account started growing, I realized the hatred that the left has and their violent nature. And I was like, I'm going to remain anonymous.
Yes.
As my account was growing and getting more effective. And I have remained anonymous until now. Until I was doxxed. My name was shared. My location was shared. My photo was never shared, though I've never done any in-person events. And I'm choosing to do that now because I feel like over the past few months, I've done so much. I've helped educate people. I know that I have helped create legislation
Yes.
to tackle some of these issues. And I think I've done all I can. And I am ready for the next step. I get people asking me, I have mom groups asking me all the time, can you come help us? I get invitations, to help people understand how to expose the left and how to
Yes.
fight it. And, being anonymous was sort of keeping me, I was restrained from doing all those things. And I'm ready to do that. I think that I'll be a lot more effective when I'm not so anonymous anymore. And I'm excited. I already have a couple of speaking engagements planned for the next few months.
Good.
And, hopefully there will be more, but I want to do all I can and help people to fight this agenda.
And I'm glad that you are. I think it's an act of bravery. And you've had a remarkable effect. And I just want to say, and I'll say this another 10 times because I think it's the most interesting part about you, you haven't really editorialized very much. What you've done essentially is bring to further light, to publicize what they're already saying in public. That's your crime.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want it to be shown though to certain audiences. They want their content out there, but they don't want us to see it. So it doesn't really add up.
No, it doesn't add up. And they have no valid complaint against you.
Right.
You haven't violated anyone's privacy. You're posting what they put on TikTok.
They're allowed to post it, but we're just not allowed to notice. The crime is noticing what they're doing.
Yes. That's always the crime,
Yeah.
isn't it? So I think you've done an amazing thing, and unlike so many other people in journalism, and I am going to, whether you like it or not, describe you as being in journalism, because I think you are in the
I think I am too.
You've had an effect, a real effect, by bringing this to light. How did you wind up, to the extent you're comfortable sharing it, how did you wind up doing this? I assume you went to Columbia Journalism School to become a journalist?
I went to Harvard and Yale. Thank God I didn't though, because those are now obviously, those institutions are all poisoned. But so it started really during COVID. I was noticing all of this content that was being published on TikTok, and I was just like, this is crazy.
Wait, but what, at this point, you're not in a related field, you weren't.
No.
You're not doing anything related to public policy or journalism.
Nothing related to politics, journalism, no. Media,
Were you
nothing.
very political?
No,
Really?
I was not. Yeah.
Because COVID was like the other day. This was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, this was 2 years ago. Well, my account started 2 years ago. Yeah.
That's just incredible that you can have this effect this quickly. So you're not a super political person. You're not watching people's speeches on C-SPAN.
No.
No, you're just a normal person stuck inside.
Exactly. And then COVID happened. And I think that COVID, for me, and I think for a lot of people, it really woke people up. And it was like an awakening. Either you can stay sleeping, not really interested in what's going on in our government, or you can choose to get involved. And I think COVID really drew a lot of people in just because of all of the insanity that was going on and that was being imposed on us. Our rights were being violated. And I was like, and that was really a turning point for me to get involved and to be interested. And then COVID also is when TikTok started becoming big, because everyone was stuck at home looking for entertainment. And then they stumbled on TikTok, and we started seeing all those videos of nurses, dancing in hospitals during the pandemic. And I was like, TikTok was getting really big, and I was like, oh, let me see what this TikTok thing is all about. And then I stumbled upon this whole platform with all of the stuff, everyone I'm sure has seen some of the videos. It's just, there's so much more. And I was like, I need to disseminate this. It's just so bizarre and dangerous. And I was like, I just need as many people to see this as possible.
And in large part, not exclusively, but there was a lot of adults bragging about sexualizing children.
Yes, a lot. Specifically teachers. There are also just parents, activists, doctors, That is the most scary part about it, and that's what my account focuses on a lot now.
So you start to see these things, and how did you decide to take clips from TikTok and put them on Twitter?
It kind of just happened. Like it just clicked. There wasn't there was no plan to become, a big media outlet like what it is now.
Right.
And like to get docs. There was no plan for that, or to become to become famous. I never wanted any of that. And it just started, for fun. And I sort of just kept changing the path of my account based on what I felt was important, and that helped.
Did anyone else? I mean, did you have friends in the media business, or did you have someone advising you? Or...
Nobody. I was a total outsider, a complete outsider,
a true outsider.
Yes, true. And actually, the person who doxed me said in an interview right afterwards that one of the reasons why she felt she had to investigate was because maybe I was a foreign actor acting on behalf of the Republican Party.
Maybe you were a Russian spy.
Yeah, I probably am. You never know.
You don't seem like it. You don't fit the profile.
Well, maybe that's the trick.
Maybe. So I remember reading about this at the time, that the people who were trying to expose you were very surprised that you had no digital footprint.
Exactly.
You weren't all over the internet. You didn't have a Pinterest account. You didn't have a Facebook. There weren't 50 pictures of you from your sorority years. Like, who is this person?
Yeah. So, and I think that actually part of that is why my account actually grew a lot, is because people are sick of like the mainstream people, like what we call, besides for the media, just the whole idea of the swamp, and it's like it's all the same old people, the same media figures, and they're and people wanted something fresh.
Yeah.
And I am an outsider, and I came in, and there was also a little bit of this mysteriousness, I think, because nobody knew who I was.
But how? I mean, so I don't know your age, but I think I have children roughly your age, and so I know people your age, and I think most people get to their 20s or early 30s or whatever with a lot of evidence of their lives on the internet. They've exposed themselves in one way or another on the internet, and you hadn't.
So by nature, I'm a very private person, and I was never into social media. So until my Twitter account, I never really had any social media.
You must be the only one. I mean, that's very rare. And
yeah.
It's just interesting that the person who never had social media became this dominant figure in social media.
Yeah, I learned it really quickly, how to navigate, how to do social media and make it grow.
So and no one taught you how to locate this stuff online, or how to promote, how to juice your account on Twitter?
No, I learned it all on the job.
What did your friends and family think of this? Did they know what was going on?
So in the beginning, I did tell some friends and family, and then as it grew, I started realizing more that I want to keep it more private.
Yes.
Just because the left is so violent and hateful, and intolerant. So, so I started, telling less and less people and being much more private about it. But I think, my friends and family were all really supportive, which is really great to have.
Well, yeah, you've done this incredible thing. Last question about process. How did you know what would work? Like, in other words, by work, I mean, how did you know what videos that people would be interested in seeing?
It's a really good question. I made standards for myself, sort of what I believed to be important. And I do a lot of vetting for the videos. And I kind of was just tuned in.
What does that mean, vetting?
Well, so I don't want to post like parody, for example, right? Because although a lot of these videos look like parody.
Yes, they do.
We wish they were parody, but unfortunately they're not.
We get a lot of them across our desk here, obviously, a lot of the videos that you find. And a couple of times I've said to myself that just cannot actually be a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, and then it is, and it's really scary.
So do you try and find out who these people are?
Yeah. So that's one thing, is to make sure it's real. So I'll make sure that it's actually a teacher.
And you do that yourself?
Yeah. To the extent I can, yeah. And I make sure it's not parody. And also, I like fresh news, so I make sure it's not something that went viral already. You know, I don't like reposting stuff. It's all, when people come to my account every day, they know that they can scroll through my feed and they're gonna get a couple of pieces of content that they've never seen before. It's all new, it's all fresh, and it's relevant. And that's what I try to focus my content on.
So you're your own editorial director, you're your own fact-checking department, you're your own tech support, and you had no background in this whatsoever. You don't come up from a family of journalists. You didn't go to journalism school. You're doing something completely different. You got bored during COVID. Do you think it's kind of amazing?
It is. And some days I'm like, how did this happen?
But you had the natural talents for it.
I guess so, yeah. I think that when I started it, I was like, oh my God, like I love this. This is exactly what I want to be doing. And I was good at it. And it fills me with a sense of satisfaction. And it's really empowering. And this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like I want to be...
Leaving aside the politics and all that, and it's hard to take them out, but just for a second, it's so cool to see someone accidentally stumble upon like their destiny. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. It's a huge blessing. I think there are millions of Americans every day who wake up and go to work and hate their jobs, and they just don't know what they're doing in life. And I feel every single day, I feel so blessed and grateful that I'm in this position and I'm making a difference and I enjoy it and I'm helping people, and it's just incredible.
That's amazing. I feel the same way about my life.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling. So because you weren't political, particularly, I mean, it sounds like on a gut level you're conservative, but you weren't involved in politics, and it sounds like you didn't know that much about it. Did you anticipate the response from the left that you got?
Never.
Never?
No, not in my wildest dreams.
Tell us about the response.
So I have been called every single insult in the book. And they call me hateful and dangerous and harmful. And so just to be very clear, I am not a hateful person. I don't wish harm onto anyone. And I think that the reality is that a lot of the content in the videos are in fact dangerous and harmful.
Yes.
And so they are correct in that sense, in that these videos, you have these teachers talking about grooming kids, and the doctors are mutilating kids and sterilizing kids. There's a lot of videos with LGBT activists indoctrinating kids. There's a lot of videos with anti-white racism, and all of these things I think are harmful. Yeah, I agree that they're harmful. So it is very telling when they call me harmful, when I'm sharing their own content with barely any editorial aspect.
Well, there's no editorial aspect in the video itself. I mean, you're not editing their videos.
Right.
You'd be in court right now if you were doing that.
Right.
And just for our viewers who haven't followed this, and I think most of them have at this point, but for those who haven't, you characterize this as harmful content in the truest sense. It harms people. And I just want to put a couple examples really quick up on the screen so they know what you're talking about.
Obviously, the question becomes then, when misinformation, disinformation is being spread, when hate and threats are being spread, where are the social media companies? What's YouTube doing? What's Twitter doing? And of course, then you have the reaction to that. Oh, this is big tech silencing people. It always becomes a debate about free speech, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. You know, last week, Twitter suspended Libs of TikTok, specifically for the policy against the promotion of threats, violence, and harassment. So great job, right? But it's been 7 days, and Libs of TikTok is back now, and they're tweeting right this very minute, this is violence, this is harassment. It's clear what these accounts are doing.
That was the reaction to what you were doing. So that's Brandy Zadrozny, who is a political activist working on behalf of the Biden administration.
They all are in the media, yeah.
They all are. Yeah. Describing you as someone who's committing violence. So tell us what we just saw, if you would.
Well, one thing that I noticed in the video is she says that I was suspended for hateful conduct, which is really interesting because the Twitter files actually just revealed that the Twitter employees admitted that I never violated their policies. So they were trying to find a violation because they didn't want me to have a voice, but I never actually violated policies. So I'm not hateful. The content, the stuff I post, it's not. It's not hateful, and they're saying that because they want to silence me.
Of course.
And they're scared because this is their own views, their own opinions. I mean, this is what they stand for, and I'm just showing people, and you know, they run away because they don't like it.
You're turning the lights on.
Exactly. They're like cockroaches running away in the light.
But what's so interesting is that Brandy Zadrozny, who's not a journalist, obviously, but does pretend to be one. And as long as you're pretending to be a journalist, it's kind of hard to argue against disclosure and openness. Like, on what grounds could she plausibly argue as an NBC News employee you shouldn't be allowed to air videos that already played on TikTok? Like, how is that a crime?
Right. Well, because she's not just an employee. She's an activist for the Democratic Party.
No, that's totally true.
Yeah.
However, you know, she's got a job at a big news organization, and you're home in your kitchen on the internet, all alone, doing all the work yourself. And with her is the Biden administration and the FBI and various intel agencies and the big social media conglomerates. So you're kind of outnumbered. Did you feel that way?
Yes, all the time. I have all of everything you just mentioned, all of the media, but Washington Post, MSNBC, all of them. The Biden administration, obviously, like, they're all working together, and then I'm just one person. I don't have a whole staff behind me. I don't have millions of dollars behind me, like any reporter at Washington Post, for example. And I think that actually might be part of the reason why they are so threatened by me.
Yes.
Is because, well, first of all, I think they're a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
Because I am much more relevant and effective than they are. And these people have so much resources behind them. And they're not actually doing real journalism or reporting, right? They're just activists. And so I think they're a little bit jealous. And they're threatened because I'm just one person, and I'm doing a lot, I think, for our culture. And they can't stand to see it.
No, they can't. So the Washington Post, which is owned by one of the richest men in the world, Jeff Bezos, who sells plastic Chinese stuff to the United States, sent a reporter literally after you. Her name is what, and she did what, if you could fill in those blanks?
So her name is Taylor Lorenz, also known as Tay Tay.
Tay Tay?
Tay Tay, that's her name.
And who calls her that?
So I called her that, and I made it up. And my goal is that people start referring to her as that, and it's catching on. I saw it printed. I forget which news outlet printed it, like Tay Tay, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is my dream.
Because you understand something that most conservatives don't, which is when you control the language, you control the conversation.
Yeah. When you refer to her next, if you say Tay Tay, then my mission will be totally complete.
Absolutely done. Yes. Done. So you have this reporter of privilege, Tay Tay Lorenz of the Washington Post. Now, what picture, let's keep that on the screen. What are we looking at there?
So that is Taylor Lorenz at one of my relatives' homes.
Now, why would she be at a relative's home?
So she decided that she was going to dox me. I had been totally anonymous until then. This was in April, this past April.
Now, is that relative's home in a city that Taylor Lorenz lives in?
That's in LA, yeah.
She doesn't live in LA, does she?
She does.
She does, okay.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
So she went to your relative's home in LA?
Yes, not just one, a few.
A few?
Yes. Anyone who shared my last name.
Really?
Yeah. We only got one photo, that photo, famous photo. So she showed up. She wanted to dox me, to share my identity, which, as we all know, she did. And I think, you know, a silver lining to all of that, I think, is right here. Like, this is, look where we are right now. My following and my influence increased tremendously after the doxing. I'm here now with you, and after this, I'm going to be going and sharing more and doing more of what I can to combat them. But at the time, I mean, obviously the doxing was extremely stressful, chaotic, scary.
Also interesting as a matter of justifiable journalism. I mean, your editorial output is on Twitter. Anyone can assess it. She could write stories about what you've done and disagree with it or whatever. Why was it so important for her to learn your identity and to reveal it when most of the internet is anonymous?
Well, I think she was scared. My account is very influential and effective. I mean, we've gotten about a dozen teachers fired. We're talking about bad teachers who are grooming kids. We've gotten a handful of drag shows canceled. I know, like, DeSantis' team told me that the content that I found helped with the parental rights and education bill. It helped inspire that. And I heard from other legislators stuff along those lines as well. So I know that it was really having an effect, and they were scared.
But she could write about that, which would be news.
Yeah.
You know, hey, this Twitter account is having an effect on public policy. That's a fair story, I would say. But she wanted to reveal your identity, which you wanted to keep secret. It sounds like...
To silence me.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think they thought that that's what happened. I would just get scared, and I also had a few days of warning before the doxing, so I knew it was going to happen.
How did you have warning?
She was harassing me. She was calling me on my phone for 2 days endlessly, like calling me, texting me, reaching out to relatives too, whoever's number and email she can get her hands on who shared my last name. And I feel like there was a point where I could have answered her and been like, you know what, I'll just delete my account and forget this whole thing. And maybe that's what they were hoping for.
Yeah.
But that was never going to happen. I mean,
What's your, since you've had, sounds like a lot of contact with Tay Lorenz, what's she like? What do you think drives her?
I think that she's extremely toxic. She's an elitist. And she's an activist, really. She's not a reporter. And you know what? People ask me all the time, this is one of the most common questions, is if you could say one thing to Taylor, what would it be? Or if you can ask her one question. And I thought about this so much, and I was never sure how to answer the question, and I thought about it a lot. And then I realized the answer is, I don't want to talk to her. She's a bad person, and she's toxic. Yeah. And I don't want to, we disagree on everything. We have nothing in common. She's not a person I ever want to be in the same room with. Yes. I never want to be in her presence. So there's my answer. I don't want to talk to her.
Yeah, but she did want to talk to you.
Yes.
So what's interesting, there's a very recognizable personality type here And that's the passive-aggressive permanent victim. In other words, she punches you in the face and then cries about how you're abusing her. And we actually have her on tape doing this. This is from January on MSNBC.
Oh, that's a great video.
Taylor Lorenz talking about the experience of people disagreeing with her and how it's violence. Watch this.
Trolls live everywhere. Can you just explain what it's like? Can you draw a picture of what it is like when a surge of harassment hits?
It's horrifying. And it's not just me either. You know, they immediately dox you and go after your family members. They try and look up everyone who's ever, you know, been associated with you. And it's just completely overwhelming and terrifying.
That's literally exactly what she did to me. Like, exactly.
So let's put the picture on the screen because we can't resist. You got to drive the point home. Speaking of hassling people's relatives, again, this is that same person. She's got the mask on so you can't see her face at the home of your relatives. So you wonder.
She 2 masks. I think she made
at least 2 masks. She looks like an armed robber to me, but maybe I'm old-fashioned. But how could you say something like that on television, knowing that you just done the very same thing yourself?
Well, because she's a hypocrite, and
right.
she's extremely dishonest. And there wasn't just that clip. There was another clip where, I don't know if we're going to play it, but where she was crying, actual tears. Actually, I think they might have been fake, but she was crying on MSNBC about being doxxed. And it's unreal that this same person who just said that in that clip that we just watched, and all these other clips. I mean,
okay.
they're all
now you've gotten our expectations up high. Our producer, Alex McCaskill, in the control room, has just said, with some enthusiasm, we've got that clip!
Yes, of course.
Here it is.
I've had to remove every single social tie. I had severe PTSD from this. I contemplated suicide. It got really bad. You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
And terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry. It's overwhelming. It's really hard.
You really feel, I know this is not true because I'm a believer in God, but you really feel watching like no one in that clip has a soul. Everything is so fake. It's like hard to believe.
She cracks a little smile when she covers her face. I don't know if you could catch that, but yeah, it's incredible that person who just said that in those 2 clips is the same person who came and doxed me, showed up to my relatives' houses, harassing anyone with my last name, and then she goes and says those things. It's just like such a person. They're dishonest, they're hypocritical, and they're just not someone that I ever want to have anything to do with.
So, I mean, this is hypothetical, but if something ever happened to you, if you were ever hurt by someone on the left, do you think Taylor Lorenz would be upset by it?
I don't think she'd be upset. I don't think it would bother her at all. And it's not hypothetical. I have had people show up to my house. I've had, I moved actually. I had to move. My address was being posted everywhere. We've had people sending pizzas, you know, that's like the telltale sign. They're like, they want to scare you and let you know that they know where you live. So we've had pizza orders come, people coming outside, screaming in front of my home, taking pictures. And I moved out of LA.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, I picked up.
So I was going to make fun of Taylor Lorenz for saying she has PTSD, but the truth is, what's happening to you does sound like it could rattle you. I mean, do you feel? I'd be rattled by it, I think.
The security issues that I think I've taken care of that the best I can. But as far as being rattled by the hatred that I got from the media, from Taylor Lorenz, from the other media, from the left in general, I view it as it's kind of just noise. So I think that once you have a basic understanding that these people, no matter what you do, they're going to twist your words. You know, they're going to call you all kinds of names, and I kind of just tune it out, and I'm like, this is just noise. These are actors. They're bad actors, and I think that has helped me deal with a lot of the hatred that I got.
And you mean that? Like deep when you go to bed at night, are you able to clear your head and sleep soundly?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So in other words, you can spend all day for 2 years in the internet at the very white-hot center of our political debate and still sleep soundly.
Yes, I sleep
Well, you're
soundly.
doing it right then. You're
Thank
doing it
you.
right. I'm impressed. I don't think most people can do that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work, and I think that if you speak to anyone in the media, everyone probably has their own way that they deal with all of the backlash and hatred that they get from the opposite side.
And just being exposed to ugly things all day.
Yeah.
I mean, just finding the videos that you do.
Yeah.
Can't be good for you.
No, I'll admit sometimes it takes a toll, and I'll take a day off. I'll just one day I'm like, I'm just not going to open Twitter today. I've done that a handful of times over the past 2 years. But I think it's important to have the support of family and friends, the support of other people in the business. So,
Yes.
I appreciate your support a lot.
Oh, it's heartfelt.
And many others. And I think to figure out sort of like a strategy of how you're going to deal with all of the hatred is really important, and I think I nailed that down.
So, I mean, I think this may apply to anybody who pays close attention to the news, even people who watch this show. It gets in your head, and it's sad. And so do you have any advice on how to stay sane in a crazy moment like this?
Yeah, I think I do get a lot of comments from people saying, this account, it's funny and it's entertaining and it's effective, but it's so depressing.
Yeah.
And it's just...
I've heard a similar critique in my line of work, yes.
It's just disturbing and it's dark.
Yeah.
And I think just to constantly remember that this is the best way to expose them. It's using their own words.
Yes.
And it's just holding up a mirror to them. It is the number one way. So the more we do that, I think the faster we're going to see things change, and then maybe there will end up being less of that content.
Yes.
Like I always say, if my account becomes irrelevant because we don't have the content anymore, that's great. That's a win for me. I want that to happen. I don't want there to be teachers bragging about grooming kids. I don't want there to be hospitals transing kids, mutilating and sterilizing kids. And if we don't have any of that, I have no content, and that's great. I would love for that to happen.
And you mean that?
Yes, 100%, yeah.
I got to ask you, since you've spent the last couple of years deeply involved in TikTok, watching TikTok, what do you make of TikTok?
Well, I mean, we all know the security issues with it, the Chinese spyware, and I know that some legislators are trying to ban it. I think it would be great if TikTok is banned in the US. It will do us a big public service. I think TikTok really attracts narcissists. It's people who want to see themselves all day and talk about themselves, and TikTok is a great platform for them to do that. But I think
I've never actually been on TikTok, but it is...
That's good. You shouldn't.
No, I wouldn't,
I'll do it for you.
I'm too old, but no, I've never seen TikTok in my life, except in the clips that we play from you. But it really is a vehicle for vanity and narcissism.
Yes. And specifically, like in our culture, it's a vehicle for indoctrinating kids. So TikTok really targets kids. And there's a lot of this type of content. And that's why also it's really important to show people what is happening on TikTok. That's part of what I do. It's like, if you let your kids have TikTok, this is what they're being exposed to. There's activists saying all kinds of nonsense, trying to change our culture, and obviously, like a lot of the grooming stuff, I see a lot of that on TikTok.
Well, since it's controlled by the Communist Party of China, why wouldn't this be an effort to destroy the country's culture?
Exactly. Yeah.
Does it feel that? I wouldn't know. I haven't seen it. Does it feel that way when you look at it?
Yes.
Like someone's thinking through, like, what's the most sophisticated poison we can inject into the bloodstream?
Yes, and I think your show did a segment on the difference between the Chinese TikTok and the U.S. TikTok, and you can't even compare. They're like, theirs is educational. They're teaching you all kinds of like.
Get up early, work hard,
Yeah,
make the country
exactly.
better. Ours is like, let's talk about me and my identity.
Let's talk about my ghost self pronouns. Like this is what they're giving our kids, but for them, they're teaching them how to like build homes or something.
No, I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's so,
It's really
it's
sad.
so obvious. I just wanted to hear from someone who actually knows a lot about it, and you clearly do.
Yeah. I think, people ask me, am I nervous about banning TikTok? Because a lot of people are discussing that now, and they're banning it maybe for a government officials. Some states have banned it already. And I'm not worried about them banning it because, number one, I have an arsenal of videos. Like, I have a lot that have never been posted yet. So I have a lot to go for a while. Number two...
And do you save them on a different server? I mean, do you download them so you have
I download them, yeah. I have... half of my content now is TikTok. The other half is other things. And a lot of the other things are really important too, and I'm happy to focus on those if we don't have TikTok anymore. I also post a lot of Instagram Reels, which is very similar to TikTok. Instagram was trying to copy TikTok, so they have these Reels where people do very similar things. A lot of actually the big TikTok accounts are doing the exact same thing on Instagram, the same videos. So I can always take videos from there. There's YouTube. There's so many places to get content from. So I'm not really too worried about TikTok being banned if it happens.
It sounds like, in hearing you describe it, there's a whole separate universe that maybe 53-year-old conservatives like me are not privy to, but there's a whole world where the activist neoliberal left communicates with itself.
Yes, it's social media, yeah, through influencers, and I think, sometimes I wonder if the conservatives should focus on that because they aren't really.
Well, yeah, I work at Fox News. I love Fox News, and I'm grateful that it exists, of course. And I spend my whole life making fun of Ben Collins on NBC or that.
Well, not NBC anymore. He was fired, right?
Oh, that's so great. I didn't know that.
Really? Or he was or temporarily suspended. Yeah, last
Well,
week.
just go back to work at the CIA and everything will be fine.
Yeah, exactly. They're all interconnected.
Oh, I've noticed. Or whatever, that Stelter kid I used to be on CNN or whatever. But we get very focused on what's happening in legacy media as if it has influence. But I hear you talk, and I'm thinking, like, maybe we should. I've never been on TikTok, and I cover the news. So maybe we're looking in the wrong places.
Well, I think it's just growing with the times, like keeping up. So I think conservatives, TikTok is separate from other social medias because TikTok is Chinese spyware. But all the other social media channels like Instagram, the Democrats, they use it so well with their influence on it and influencers and their activism. And I think conservatives should also, Instagram isn't going away. TikTok might, Instagram isn't, and other social channels. So I think they should try to target that younger audience that's on these social channels.
And again, you would know the answer to this. Is anyone doing that?
Not really. Definitely not as good as the Democrats are doing it. Not as much.
And you see what is obvious to you propaganda from the party.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
And you see none from the other side.
No.
Well, I'm embarrassed even to say this out loud because it's all so obvious, but that seems like a huge problem.
It is a huge problem. And I know that conservatives discuss this. They know it's a problem, and I've heard people discussing this. But I think maybe it's a deeper issue.
Yeah. The stupid party versus the evil party.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't want to cause any.
No, but it seems true, and I'm obviously part of the problem.
It bothers me a lot because I'm on social media a lot, like TikTok and Instagram, and I wish conservatives just learned to embrace it and to use it to our advantage.
Yeah, it's a little bit like voting rules. I'm completely against drop boxes and early voting. On the other hand, they're the law, and I'm not in charge of the law. So if those are the rules, then why don't you just play by that and adapt?
Exactly. And a lot of people were saying that after the midterms just now. that
It seems like an obvious
exactly.
conclusion.
And I hope that they do something. I hope so.
Not just whine?
No, exactly.
Not just whine. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I personally prefer whining because it's just easier, but it doesn't actually change anything.
Right. Well, also, right. You're also, that's your position. You're.
You're right. I mean, you're totally right. Complain, man. Another thing. No, that's insightful and true. So I want to play. And we played this in the nighttime show, but I didn't until you came to our studio today. Realized that this was you on the tape, and I should have known that since I knew that you didn't have like a giant staff or anything.
Yeah.
So this is a call that you did to Children's National Hospital, and when you started surfacing these videos, one of the complaints against you was they're fake, or this isn't really, this is made up. Like, no one's sterilizing, no one's performing hysterectomies on little girls or mastectomies or sterilizing little boys. Like, you're just making this up. You're the weirdo. And so you, in an act of, I think, much needed journalism, got on the phone with Children's National Hospital and just asked the question. And here's what happened.
I just want to know if you guys do service that age, before coming all the way for an in-person consult and going through all the paperwork and everything.
Yeah, it depends. Like, each department is different. Some departments cut off at 18. How old is your patient?
16.
Okay, all right. So they're in the clear.
So they do. So they would do it for that age.
Yes.
Okay, great. Is it a common procedure that you guys do for that age?
Yes, we have all different type of age groups that comes in for that.
For the hysterectomy?
Yes, ma'am.
My jaw is open. The whole time I'm thinking, well, maybe she misunderstands you. For that procedure, it's oblique, and then you just come out and say for the hysterectomy?
Yeah. I clarified it like 5 times. I gave them a chance to be like, no, we don't do that, but they do. I mean, they do it. And the reason why I did that recording was because this was right after some of the reporting about Boston Children's Hospital. And what happened with that is all of the media came out and started saying, you're lying. It's not true. They're not actually doing this to kids. And I took a big grunt of all of that, hatred from the media and that reporting about me. And I, in a way, I was like, I felt like I kind of had to like clear my name a bit, I'm like, I need to prove that they're doing it on kids. I want to get someone to tell me directly, straight up, yes, we're going to do this on kids. So that's why I got the inspiration to call and ask. Like, how else do you find out information? Just call and ask.
It's called reporting.
Yeah. So I just called and asked, and I didn't know what to expect. I recorded the call, and I didn't know what was going to happen, and then they just straight up admitted it.
But I guess what I found so compelling, so shocking about that is that you use the word hysterectomy. And how could any person, I don't care if you're a receptionist or a surgeon, a parent, I don't care who you are, a hysterectomy for a 16-year-old girl for no medically necessary reason?
And younger kids, she said, and younger kids. So how young? I don't even know. Maybe they're doing it on 12-year-olds. I don't know. It's just, it's so horrifying. And
what do you think this, like, how could, I mean, I assume the person who said that is not like a serial killer or obviously evil person, but that's so evil. What is going on here? Do you have any theories?
I think there's something so unique about the LGBTQ community has become this cult, and it's so captivating, and it pulls people in so strongly, unlike anything we've ever seen. And they brainwash people to join, and they convince them of all of these things. And it's really, really hard to get out of it. It's really difficult. And there are studies on this. Like there's been a lot of reporting on this about people, parents who are like, my child is starting to say, that they're non-binary or transgender or whatever. And what do I do? How do I stop this? And it's really, really difficult. It's unlike anything we've ever seen, I think. It's extremely poisonous.
But what parents are looking at is like the destruction of their own children the destruction of their own family line, which like 20 minutes ago we used to admit was like a very basic thing you would want. Grandchildren, that's not weird to want that. That's a human desire to want. It's the best and most basic human desire. And you're giving up all of that.
Yeah.
Well, how do they sit there and let this happen?
Well, they're told that, okay, so there are a lot of parents who let their kids do this, and they promote it and they encourage it, right? And there are a lot of parents, obviously, who are grooming their kids to doing this. But there are a lot of parents who are told either you have a dead kid or you have a trans kid. So it's really coming, I think, from higher up than just the parents. It's coming from the doctors, and it's coming from the social workers and
if you
psychologists.
don't cooperate and allow your child to be sterilized, your child will kill himself.
Yes, and there's not really any evidence for that.
Well, I am aware of that, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that is, I guess, speaking for myself as a father, that is the one, you would do anything to prevent your child
Yes.
from wanting to kill himself.
Yes.
That is the scariest thing for any parent that there is.
Yeah, yeah, and they're told a lot of false information, and they're kind of just pulled in. And another theme that I see a lot is when a child starts out on this gender journey, whatever we want to call it, the process is always very rushed. Like the doctors and the social workers, there's a lot of pressure to do this as quickly as possible. And I think that
you can't even get an MRI scheduled in a lot of places as fast as they can get a mastectomy.
Exactly. You can't get a 35-year-old woman who wants a hysterectomy. It's really difficult to get. They have to go through a lot of different parts. They have to have consultations and speak to psychologists, and they need to get letters, and they don't just do hysterectomies on grown women. But when it comes to gender ideology, they're doing hysterectomies on 16-year-old girls.
Do you see, without getting too personal, but do you see a spiritual component to any of this? You don't have to answer that if you don't want.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I do. I don't think this makes sense at all.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And I think they're evil. And sometimes we try to break it down a lot, and we discuss like why this is happening, what's happening, and whatever. And I think sometimes the simplest answer is like they're just evil. They're bad people. They're just evil people. And they want to groom kids.
Yeah.
They're recruiting.
And it seems to be extremely, extremely effective. How is it affected? So you grew up in this country, so I'm assuming you had respect for doctors. I know that I always have. Why wouldn't you? They're doctors, right?
Yes.
But you've watched for 2 years videos of doctors participating in the destruction of children for no medically justifiable reason whatsoever because they're members of this cult. Has that affected your view of doctors?
Yes, 100%. And I think not just the gender stuff, but in general with COVID, that changed people's views of the medical profession a lot for good reason. I don't know if I'll ever trust doctors again like I used to.
So you do feel that way personally?
Yes, and I think I would say that a lot of people do.
Really?
After COVID, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone told me today that vaccine acceptance not for the COVID vaccine, but for the conventional childhood vaccines is way down.
Oh, yeah?
That it does make sense, I hadn't known that, but that a lot of parents are so bothered by the COVID vaccine stuff, the lying around it, the harm that it's done.
I mean, how could we trust these medical institutions ever again? I had the medical institutions ask the Biden's DOJ to investigate me for reporting publicly available videos from these hospitals' YouTube channels. They want kids, they're upset that I'm noticing that they're giving kids mastectomies. And I mean, how could you trust a medical institution that is promoting mutilating kids like that?
you wonder, like, the people who serve on the boards of these hospitals, you know, the local car dealer and all the local rich people who want to be on the board of Baylor or Vanderbilt or, you know, any of these hospitals, UCLA Medical Center, that are really, like, you know, throwing the big galas every year. Why don't they ever say anything about this, I wonder?
I think that it's really unpopular in our culture to be a conservative. And conservatives are treated badly in our culture. It's that all the institutions are run by leftists. I mean, they're all so taken by it. And I think a lot of them are probably scared of what would happen if they said that they disagree with these things, because, you know, this is what they have to do now. This is what they all have to agree with this, at least publicly. But I would not be surprised if a lot of them behind the scenes are actually horrified by it.
I was taught as a child, it's a very popular phrase when I was a kid, and I'm paraphrasing, but all that's necessary for evil to flourish is for good men to do nothing. And I remember thinking, well, that's a little melodramatic. But I don't think that is.
No, I don't. I think people are scared to speak up because, I mean, as we saw with my account, the second you speak up or say anything, I mean, the left is going to come for you, like you've never seen. And I'm lucky. I don't run the risk of losing my job because of what I believe in. This is my job. But like a teacher, let's say, for example, who really doesn't agree with all of the propaganda, the LGBT propaganda in schools. You know, if they say anything, they might lose their job.
Yeah.
So they're scared.
Well, you've just had an amazing experience these last couple of years. You've been thrust into places I can't imagine you imagined you would ever be. So as we go out, I'm just interested, I shouldn't do this, but I can't resist. Since you've been through all of this and you've learned so much, let's make 2 columns here.
Okay.
Good guys, bad guys. Let's start with the bad guys. Who are the people other than Taylor Renz who you think have been the most unfair and dishonest as you've watched this for the past?
In regard to my account?
Yeah, to your account, to media figures who are really not covering the news, who are really lying on purpose.
So obviously Tay.
Yes.
I would say Ben Collins is really high up there.
Yes.
From
NBC.
Yes. Previously.
Yes.
I don't know. I think he's unemployed now.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what the deal is. I think Yoel Roth.
Really?
He came out looking really bad from all those Twitter files.
Yes.
And he personally was on the team that made the decision to suspend my account. And while knowing that I never violated the rules. So Yoel came out looking really bad from the Twitter files, but it also related to my account. There are some people that I feel like they don't deserve to be mentioned by name. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to give them.
I do. That's totally fine. You pick 3 ones that I would put on my list as well. People who went out of their way to lie.
Yeah.
And to cover for evil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the good side, you went through a lot and you did it alone. Is there anyone who reached out to you, who supported you, who took your side?
Yes. First of all, you.
Please.
I really appreciate it, Tucker.
That's an easy one.
I will say this. When I was doxxed, someone from Ron DeSantis' team called me.
Really?
Yes. And she said, the governor wanted me to give you a message. He said, if you don't feel safe, or you or your family, if you need a place to go, to hide, to stay, you can come to the governor's mansion.
What?
He said, we have a guest house for you, and you can come and stay as long as you need.
The governor of Florida did.
Yes. I can't even, I was almost in tears. Like, the governor of Florida, like, he has nothing but, like,
and you're living in California.
To deal with. I'm living in California. And he took time out of his, I'm assuming, extremely busy schedule.
You'd think.
I mean, he's the governor of Florida. And to send someone to call me to make sure I'm safe.
That's crazy.
Unreal.
And invite you to stay at his house?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah. It was incredible. I don't even have the words for it. Like, so grateful. So grateful.
Well, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Your whole story is an amazing story.
Yeah. I'll just give a shout out also. Marjorie Taylor Greene called me.
Really?
And she's like, I'm just seeing what you're going through, and I wanted to make sure you know you have my full support, and I support everything you're doing. And she's like, if you need anything, call me. You have my number. Really, really sweet.
Really? Did you know her?
No. We've like interacted on Twitter. Like, I've retweeted some of her stuff. She's retweeted some of my stuff, but she like took like. It was a solid like half hour out of her day to call me the day I was doxxed and just be like, you're incredible. You're so brave. Stay strong. That meant so much to me.
I just love knowing that. I love knowing what people are really like.
Yeah.
And you don't really know.
You don't really get to know
their
don't. Personal side.
No, you don't.
And I'm so glad I could share this now. And like, you would, like, and you yourself also, like you have also so much on your plate. You do your show. And
But that is what I do.
were,
I'm not an elected official.
Yeah.
Those are people who have actual responsibilities. They're just
and they took time
a talk show
out of their day to call me and to show that they cared. Those were the two that really stuck out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's my favorite question I've asked today because the answer is just so wonderful.
Save the best for last.
Chaya, thank you so much. And we will see you again and under your own name. I cannot wait to see your Chiron on the screen.
Yes.
Thank
There's
you.
big things coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Tucker Carlson today is the name of the show. New episodes today's week on Fox Nation. Of course, we'll see you relentlessly every weeknight, 8 p.m. on the Fox News Channel.